33 minutes now past the hour, and a very good day to you. I'm your host, Randall White, and welcome to Eat, Drink, Explore Radio's Market Fresh Hour. Nice to have you with us here on this chilly day. First off, I need to apologize. At the end of the last segment and at the start of the show, I said we'd be speaking with a beer expert. Of course, we all want to hear that, right? Known as the Cicerone during this segment of the show. But I got my days mixed up, and I got my hours mixed up. It's coming up at 9:30 during our Sunday Fun Day hour. On Sundays, it's Market Fresh, from 8 to 9, and then Sunday Fun Day from 9 to 10. So sorry for the confusion. I also want to let you know that Courtney Coleman got cut off during our last segment before she could mention her upcoming class, Whole Foods Cooking 101 for Busy People. That's all of us. Sunday, December the 15th. Just go to our website, cookwell.org, for location, hours, and other information. This portion of Eat, Drink, Explore's Market Fresh Hour brought to you by Sidecar Restaurant. That is in downtown San Luis Obispo on Broad between Higuera and Marsh Streets. So if you're not familiar with the downtown SLO, that's in the heart of it. Now is the time to book your holiday party at Sidecar. They tell us that they still have spaces available. The food, as you know, always fresh, local, seasonal, sustainable, grown by small family farms right here on the Central Coast. Find Sidecar Restaurant online at sidecarslo.com and let them know you heard about their fantastic restaurant. It really is a fantastic restaurant right here on the radio. So record cold temperatures have hit portions of the state over the past several days, and that has everyone from big farmers to, your local gardener, doing what they can to save their crops or their plants. And the first day of winter hasn't even hit yet. That's still a couple of weeks off. So this is a good time to bring in an expert for tips on which plants are the most vulnerable, what you can do to protect them, and what happens if you don't. Steve McShane is owner of McShane's Nursery in Salinas. You can find them online at McShanesNursery.com. That's MCSHANES Nursery.com. Welcome to the program, Steve.
You bet, Randall. Thanks for having me.
Nice to have you here, and I bet you're getting a lot of calls around this time saying, oh no, what do I do? Do I have to cover my entire backyard in plastic?
Oh, tons of calls. Plants are part of the family, and for folks that like to live on the adventurous side, some of those rare fruit growers out there growing subtropicals and even tropicals here along the Central Coast, they're particularly susceptible, and we need to talk about what measures can be taken to protect their family members.
Right. And so for the big farmers, I know they pull out the giant wind turbines and they want to mix up that air because there's typically an inversion layer, 40, 50, 6 feet off the ground. And if they can pull down that warm air and mix it with the cold air that is pooled and settled right along the trees there, they can bump it up just enough so that it's above 32 and keeps that fruit from being severely damaged. But we don't have those big wind turbines in our backyard.
Well, some folks will actually move towards using fans. And you see some of the larger operations with smudge pots where they're actually burning petroleum fuel to actually add some heat to the blocks that are in particularly bad areas. But right, for the backyard gardener, we have to be a little more creative, no doubt about it.
And so what we did, we have a avocado tree that we started from a seed. From my in-laws have a half dozen or so avocado trees, full-grown avocado trees in their backyard. And so a seed from one of those avocados, we did the old toothpicks in a cup of water thing on the counter. And then it's really started growing roots and a plant was popping out. So I was like, well, I guess we have a full-fledged tree here, and we put it in a big pot. So I don't know, it's about 4 feet, about 3 feet tall right now. And so we picked that thing up and moved it under the overhang. Is that enough?
Yeah, that's going to help. Folks that live right on the ocean, say Shell Beach, Cayucas, Big Sur, they're not going to have to deal with as big a problem as the people who are in the inland valleys. Keeping plants closer to the home, if they're on casters or in containers, getting them either indoors or as close to the home as possible is a good move. And that's, in the 20s, 26, 28 even as high as 29, 30. Those are the types of things we can deal with. But once the USDA or the Weather Service is telling us it's going to be in the teens, that's when we really have to worry. Covering plants is probably the number one way that people defend against frost. You'll see people with sheets and towels. The best you can do is get a hold of some insulate frost fabric from your favorite garden center. That'll give you up to 8 degrees of protection. There's a space-age, NASA-designed fabric that will actually do a terrific job to keep the frost from burning plants.
Really?
That tends, so covering plants, getting them out of that still dry, cold air is going to be a good defense, no doubt about it.
And just plain old plastic can actually hurt the plants, I've heard.
Yeah, something as thin as that's actually going to conduct the cool air is actually going to do some damage. So more of an insulation helps. Mm-hmm. There's also a product out there called Wilt Stop. It's also known as cloud cover. And what that is it's actually a protective coating you can put on the leaves. It's almost like putting the insulation where it's needed most. The Wilt Stop that I'm a big fan of is actually a pine resin-derived product. It's natural and organic, if you will, and that'll give you 4 or 5 degrees of protection. And depending on the crop, it's really going to make that difference that you need.
Now, there's a couple of different things going on here. For some people, it's the fruit that they don't want damaged. Certainly for the citrus growers, that's the situation. As I understand it, when you open up an orange section, you can see the little tiny pieces that are like, I don't know, if you bite them between your teeth, they kind of pop. I don't know what you would call those, but when the liquid freezes, it expands, and then that breaks that membrane. And when it unfreezes, then you tear open the fruit, and it has that kind of torn up look inside, and it's dry, and it's just not very good. That's what happens to the citrus anyway. So you have the fruit that you might be worried about, and then you have the plant itself that you might have to be worried about. So I would imagine, Steve, that first to go would be the fruit, and then the deeply colder temperatures is when you start worrying about the plants. Do I have that in the right order?
You see damage in both cases, and most of the folks listening to the program and most of the folks I counsel are more worried about the plant, actually. Okay. They don't want their subtropical baby to, pass on.
Yeah.
And so it's the investment in whatever else. In my garden, I've got cherimoya, guava, passion fruit, and even papaya. Wow. And trust me, I get excited. I've tried everything from Christmas lights and Afghans to, fans and, heaters even. So at the end of the day, I'm always looking for good solutions. And, at the end of the day, it's that keeping it covered. The Wilt Stop goes a long way. A lot of folks will also get the advice that it's important to irrigate. And the challenge there is, freeze damage is really the expansion of water in the leaf cells, and it's the sunlight the next day when the cells really burst they've bursted at their weakest points, and they're subject to dehydration. So we don't want that freeze to happen. And if you irrigate literally the night of, the water can help to add a number of degrees, as it actually will provide a heat source against that cold, dry, still air that's literally settling and doing the damage we don't want. So irrigation, literally the night of, helps. And in some cases, people will actually put out big pans of water, big tubs of water, because again, that water may be 40 degrees in temperature, 45 degrees in temperature, and the cool air is 25 degrees, and it's actually a heat source, believe it or not, in that freezing temperature.
So, Steve, when you say irrigate, you mean literally water your plants, but you're not talking about how the orange growers spray the oranges so that they become coated in a blanket of ice, right?
Right. So that's a strategy that the commercial growers will employ when they know it's going to be super, super, super duper cold. They know that ice, though it will damage the crop and likely do some damage to the trees, quite a bit in many cases, it'll actually insulate against deep, deep damage. So it's, in that case, when you see growers irrigating when they know it's super cold, then the situation's really bad.
So as the winter progresses and we have repeating cold snaps, as we will, what are some of the key degree points that we should be concerned about if we have some of these subtropical plants and such? 32 degrees, we all know, because that's where water freezes. But is that the number we need to be worried about?
Well, you got to know your plants like you know your family, like you know your pets. Head to your local garden center and ask them, because it's going to depend. An avocado is different than a hibiscus, is different than a babaco papaya. So knowing the varieties of plants that you're worried about, and they'll usually have a list and some strategies, and then keeping in touch with the local weather. And as soon as you see a frost warning for certain parts of the county, then paying attention and taking action. Light protection is literally a sheet or towel. Better protection is that frost fabric I mentioned, and maybe the Insulate, the Wilt Stop, pine resin-based spray, and ultimately, perhaps even irrigating literally the night of to employ, again, that heating capacity from the water that comes out of this hose.
And palm trees, for the most part, they can handle this up to a point?
Yeah, I always tell people the younger the tree, the more susceptible. I've seen mature palms of all varieties do really well. Well, not really well. You'll see some burn, but they'll make it even into the teens.
That's good. Steve,
boy.
I got to cut you off there. Steve McShane, nursery owner at McShane'sNursery.com. Great info. Thank you so much.
My pleasure, Randall.
Good luck hand-pollinating all that cherimoya. All right.
Okay.
All right. Stick around, everyone. We're back in just a minute.